A wealthy man notices a young girl resting near the cemetery. What unfolds before him causes him to collapse in despair. The image of his former spouse, whom he had sent away from their home years prior. Before we embark on this narrative journey, please leave a comment below and share your location with us. Delight in the tale. The sharp December wind sliced through Elliot Blackwood's luxurious wool coat as he walked purposefully down the deserted sidewalk. At 42, he had perfected the skill of seeming unshakable. Too distant, too unfeeling, too anything that could imply vulnerability. The street lamps elongated shadows along his route, their glow shimmering against the iron gates of Oakwood Cemetery to his right. The clock approached the stroke of midnight. The board meeting had extended beyond the anticipated time, yet Elliot remained unfazed. The penthouse apartment was filled with immaculate furnishings and a profound stillness. What awaited him there but yet another tumbler of whiskey and the financial reports he had already committed to memory? A faint rustle from up ahead piqued his curiosity. It was likely nothing more than debris carried by the breeze, he mused. Yet, an unseen force compelled him to pause. A stack of flattened cardboard boxes leaned subtly against the cemetery fence, shifting ever so slightly. Elliot moved forward with careful steps. The cardboard shifted once more, revealing a tiny pink shoe peeking out from underneath. "Greetings?" he called out, his voice echoing sharply in the stillness of the street. "Is anyone present?" No reply was given, yet the cardboard quivered faintly. Elliot knelt low, gazing intently into the darkness. A set of wide eyes gazed back at him, the eyes of a child, brimming with fear and exhaustion. "Greetings," he remarked, his voice taking on a gentler quality. "How are you doing?" Gradually, akin to a timid creature venturing out from its refuge, the visage of a young girl came into view. She appeared to be no older than 5, her tangled dark hair framing a face marked with smudges. Amidst the grime and trepidation, her delicate features held an eerily recognizable quality. "You shouldn't be out here alone," Elliot said, struggling to maintain his composure. "The cold is biting. What is the location of your parents?" The girl stayed quiet, observing him with her large eyes that appeared to assess his every action. At last, she uttered a word, her tone unexpectedly crisp. "While it may not be a genuine bed, it certainly offers some respite from the chill." The straightforward declaration, presented devoid of any self-pity, hit Elliot with the force of a physical blow. No child should have to learn the harsh realities of street survival, much less discuss it with such a sense of resigned acceptance. "May I ask what your name is?" he inquired softly. "Naomi," she replied, then emphasized her words in a distinctive manner. "That's the name my mother chose for me. My name is Elliot. Where is your mother, Naomi?" Rather than responding, the girl moved slightly, and Elliot observed that she was holding something tightly against her chest. A photograph safeguarded by a transparent plastic sleeve, its edges frayed as though it had been touched many times. "Could I take a look at that?" he inquired, gesturing towards the photograph. Naomi paused, gripping it more firmly until a shift in his expression caused her to give in. She extended it with care. As Elliot's fingers grazed the plastic sleeve, an unusual feeling enveloped him. As he flipped the photograph and caught sight of the image, his legs gave way beneath him. He truly sank to one knee on the frigid pavement. The surprise was utterly overwhelming. The image captured a woman with honey blonde hair and sparkling green eyes, a smile he would identify anywhere, even after 5 years since their last encounter. "Vanessa, his former spouse. Where did you obtain this?" he managed to inquire, his voice scarcely rising above the sudden roar in his ears. Naomi tilted her head, perplexed by his response. "That's my mom," she said with a straightforward tone. The environment surrounding Elliot appeared to come to a standstill. He gazed at the child's face, truly observing it for the first time, and recognized his own eyes reflected back. The same unique Blackwood eyes that had defined his lineage for generations. "Your mommy," he repeated, struggling to comprehend the unfolding situation. "Is Vanessa your mother?" Naomi gave a slight nod. "She fell ill. She mentioned she would be getting some medicine and asked me to wait. Yet she never returned. Elliot's thoughts surged, grappling with dates that loomed ominously. The contentious dispute from 5 years past. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers arrived. Vanessa vanished entirely afterward. The reality descended upon him like an overwhelming force. Vanessa was expecting when he cast her aside. This little girl, so fragile and exposed to the harshness of the streets, was his own flesh and blood, a child he was unaware of all along. As he crossed the threshold, Elliot's sleek penthouse felt like an unfamiliar realm. Naomi's delicate hand intertwined with his. He had borne her for the majority of the journey, her delicate form feeling almost weightless as it rested against him. Now she stood in his marble entryway, gazing in awe at the surroundings that probably appeared as foreign to her as her cardboard shelter did to him. "Is this where you live?" she inquired, her voice barely a whisper in the expansive emptiness. "Indeed," Elliot replied with a straightforwardness, as he unexpectedly perceived his home from her perspective. The sleek furniture, the avant-garde art valued higher than certain homes. The immaculate expanse remains devoid of any signs of existence. The environment was not tailored for the young ones. He came to the realization that it wasn't truly meant for anyone to inhabit. "Are you hungry?" he inquired, recalling that children required regular meals, a detail he often overlooked himself. Naomi gave a hesitant nod. The fridge offered scant options. A few takeout containers, a bottle of champagne, and some expired milk. Elliot discovered bread and peanut butter tucked away in a cabinet and crafted a sandwich, slicing it into triangles just as his mother had done for him ages past. Naomi savored each bite, delicately nibbling as if the meal might vanish at any moment. She perched on the edge of his Italian leather sofa, her dirty shoes suspended above the pristine white rug. Elliot remarked that there were no limits to how much one could eat, all the while observing how she carefully measured each morsel. There's so much more to explore. While she enjoyed her meal, he was busy making phone calls. First, he reached out to his executive assistant Sophia, who picked up despite the late hour. "Cancel my morning meetings," he stated bluntly, "and arrange for children's furniture to be delivered tomorrow, a bed, dresser, and anything else a 5-year-old girl might require." To her credit, Sophia refrained from probing further than the necessary details, yet he could sense the bewilderment in her tone. He made another call to a private investigator he had previously engaged for corporate affairs. He expressed a need to locate someone. "This is a matter of urgency." When he completed his calls, he found Naomi peacefully asleep on the sofa, the photograph of Vanessa still held tightly in her small hand. Elliot draped a cashmere throw over her, then paused to observe. That person? A tempest of feelings raging within him. How did Vanessa find herself in a situation where she left their child unattended? Where had she gone now? The Vanessa he remembered would never forsake her child unless something truly horrific had occurred. What about him? What sort of man would cast his pregnant wife into the chill after a fierce dispute? The weight of it, even in ignorance, as he had been warned to suffocate him. In slumber, Naomi mirrored him unmistakably, sharing the same straight nose and the same resolute chin. How could he have missed it right away? Elliot arranged the guest room with care, crafting a cozy nest of pillows to ensure she wouldn't tumble off the excessively high bed. He gently lifted her slumbering figure and nestled her into bed, clumsily taking off just her shoes, uncertain of the right procedure. Just as he was about to walk away, a faint voice called out to him. "Where are you headed?" He glanced over his shoulder to see Naomi's eyes wide open, observing him with that familiar cautious expression. He simply stated, "Just to my room. It's just on the other side of the hallway. Will you be present when I open my eyes?" The inquiry held significance that transcended its mere phrasing. It was the inquiry of a young mind who had come to understand that individuals could vanish. Indeed, Elliot made a promise. "I will remain present." Content. She shut her eyes once more, the photograph firmly held in her grasp. Elliot hardly found rest that night. As dawn approached, he was stirred from his slumber by piercing screams. He hurried to the guest room, where Naomi was tossing and turning in the grip of a nightmare, calling out for her mother. He lingered in the doorway, paralyzed by uncertainty. His father had never offered solace during the dark nights of his fears. Expressing feelings was not the tradition of the Blackwood family, yet a part of him resisted that legacy. With a sense of trepidation, he perched himself on the edge of the bed. "It's all right, Naomi," he said with an uncomfortable pause. "You are secure." To his astonishment, she swiftly relaxed, her breath becoming more even as she slipped back into slumber. Elliot lingered, convinced she would not awaken again, captivated by the profound impact of such a seemingly simple act. The initial week flew by in a whirlwind of busyness. The guest room evolved into a charming haven for a young girl. The gray walls transformed into a gentle shade of yellow. Elliot employed a nanny, Mrs. Peterson, a warm-hearted woman with gentle eyes and clear limits. He adjusted his timetable to telecommute as often as he could. Naomi held back, as if hesitant to completely embrace her surroundings. She always held the photo close, resting it beneath her pillow as she slept. On the third night, as her screams once more shattered the silence, Elliot acted without a moment's pause. He approached her, settled down next to her, and this time, with a gentle touch, caressed her hair. "It's merely a dream," he murmured gently. "You are secure in this place, Naomi."
Bien sûr you.
Her delicate hands sought his in the shadows, clasping tightly as she succumbed to slumber once more, and a profound change stirred within Elliot Blackwood, as if a hidden chamber in his heart had been unexpectedly unlocked. He remained by her side this time, lingering until the first light of morning, his hand enveloped in the trusting grasp of the daughter he had never known. It had been 23 days since Elliot welcomed Naomi into his home. A meticulous rhythm was developing between them, akin to performers still mastering one another's movements. At first, Elliot conducted all his meetings via video call from his home office, remaining attentive to any noises in the apartment, even with Mrs. Peterson nearby. However, he quickly realized something unexpected about Naomi: her extraordinary independence. It wasn't that she lacked guidance. At that tender age of 5, she was still so young. Yet, there was a remarkable independence in her that defied her years, a quality that Elliot understood stemmed from all she had faced in her brief existence. One morning, after wrapping up a conference call, he exited his office to discover Naomi seated in the center of the living room, enveloped by a sea of papers. She was immersed in her drawing, her tongue peeking out at the corner of her mouth, tiny fingers clutching a crayon with unwavering focus. "What are you creating?" he inquired, lowering himself to take a closer look. Naomi raised the paper with a sense of accomplishment. It depicted 2 stick figures, a smaller one clearly representing herself and a larger one dressed in what appeared to be a suit. "That's you and me, Elle," she remarked. It marked the first occasion she had abbreviated his name. A warmth unfurled within Elliot's chest, an indescribable feeling that eluded definition. He said her name again, choosing not to make any corrections. From that point on, it settled into a familiar pattern. Each morning, following his early calls, he carved out moments to sit on the living room floor and create art alongside her. Initially, it was merely a flurry of random marks, but before long, he discovered himself crafting houses, trees, figures, and creatures to delight his young friend. "You have a remarkable talent for drawing," she remarked one day, gazing at the elephant he had illustrated. Elliot chuckled. "To be honest, my performance in art class during school was quite poor." Naomi furrowed her brow, puzzled. What is an art class? Unbeknownst to him, he started to share stories from his childhood with her. Brief narratives, snippets of recollection he was unaware still lingered within him. The Saturday art classes his parents had insisted he participate in. The instructor, sporting a bushy mustache and perpetually carrying the scent of paint, while he grappled with the challenge of drawing straight lines, his younger sister effortlessly brought forth the most exquisite paintings. He never brought up Vanessa, and Naomi never inquired about her mother during these sessions. It felt like they had reached a silent understanding. These moments belonged solely to them, an opportunity to forge their unique bond. Slowly, amidst sketches and light-hearted chats, The mornings transformed into a source of anticipation for Elliot, surpassing even the most important business engagements. The evenings began to establish their own rhythm as well. Elliot realized he was arriving home earlier these days, not due to any sense of duty, but simply because he desired to. Previously, the penthouse served merely as a space for rest. At that moment, there was an undeniable sense of lightness, though he found it difficult to articulate the reason behind it. He began to present little tokens for Naomi, affordable items. He quickly realized that lavishness unsettled her. A vibrant book filled with captivating illustrations. Conundrum, a container of superior craftsmanship. Crayons compared to the earlier ones. The puzzle evolved into yet another cherished routine. Following dinner, they laid out the pieces on the coffee table and collaborated on it together. Initially, these were straightforward puzzles with 20 or 30 pieces, but Elliot observed that Naomi rapidly grasped the patterns, prompting him to introduce more intricate challenges. She demonstrated to achieve a level of excellence in it. "How do you manage to do it so quickly?" he inquired one evening after she discovered 3 matching pieces in a row. Naomi shrugged, saying she simply seeks out the colors that complement each other. Yet it transcended that. It was a knack for recognizing patterns, to perceive what others overlooked. Elliot resolved to seek out educational institutions that fostered that particular type of intelligence when the moment arrived. As the moment approached, it was as if he could already envision her presence, perceiving her as an enduring element of his existence. On a rainy Saturday, after they had dedicated the morning to a 500-piece puzzle, he discovered her staring wistfully out the window. "Looking to shake things up today?" he inquired. Naomi spun around, filled with anticipation. "Shall we indulge in some cartoons?" Elliot came to the understanding that even though he had purchased numerous toys, he had never once activated the TV for her. Not due to any rigid guidelines, but rather because it had never crossed his mind. "Of course," he replied, reaching for the remote. "What type of animated shows do you enjoy?" She gave a slight shrug. "I'm uncertain." In the shelter, there was just one story featuring a bunny. Elliot scrolled through the children's channels, yet nothing captured her interest. Suddenly, a thought struck him. "Stay put," he instructed. He approached his storage closet and lifted the lid of a box that had remained undisturbed for years. Within lay a collection of vintage DVDs from his youth, preserved for reasons that eluded his ability to express. He came back, carrying a dusty case, and presented it to Naomi. "This was the cartoon I cherished most when I was your age." Her eyes sparkled with excitement as it began. Though it was aged and featured animation that might seem basic today, it possessed a timeless charm that captivated the heart. A tale unfolds about a family of bears venturing into enchanting woodlands. Naomi suddenly pointed at the screen and exclaimed, "The little bear looks just like you." Elliot chuckled heartily. "What leads you to that conclusion?" He appears quite solemn. However, he's not terrible. He simply lacks the ability to smile in the right way. The remark, so simple, took him by surprise. Was that truly her perception of him? A person unfamiliar with the art of smiling? That afternoon, they indulged in a marathon of 3 consecutive episodes. Elliot was astonished to discover that he recalled every nuance, even snippets of conversation. Naomi nestled next to him on the couch, chuckling at all the right moments, posing questions he occasionally found difficult to answer. What is it that keeps the big bear from having any companions? What is it about the fox that leads to its constant deception? Will the bears discover the enchanted mountain? Elliot responded to the best of his ability, becoming aware that he was inadvertently echoing the explanations his mother had provided him many years prior. Following that day, the most significant transformation occurred. In that moment, Elliot understood that he wasn't merely providing a home for Naomi. He was crafting a new existence alongside her. One evening, he returned home after a lengthy meeting. He informed Naomi that he would return after her bedtime and requested Mrs. Peterson to remain until he got there. Upon entering, he discovered the nanny dozing in an armchair, while Naomi lay across the couch, a storybook resting on her chest. He subtly waved off Mrs. Peterson and remained still, observing Naomi as she rested. She appeared diminutive, exuding a sense of fragility. The idea that had lingered in his mind for weeks resurfaced. What if he had never discovered her that night? How much longer could she have endured the harsh realities of the streets? He tenderly draped a soft blanket over her, ensuring she felt warm and secure. Just as he was on the verge of departing, a drowsy voice caught his attention. "Being here with you, Elle, brings me joy." He stood still, uncertain of how to react. As he pivoted, he noticed her eyes had drifted shut once more. She had been murmuring in her slumber, or something quite like it. Compelled by an unnameable urge, Elliot found himself seated on the floor next to the couch. He lingered there, observing Naomi's serene expression, experiencing an emotion entirely new to him. In that instant, as he observed her chest rise and fall with soft breaths, the truth became clear to him. The vast empire he had constructed, the wealth he had amassed, paled in significance next to this. The child who entered his life against all odds held a value greater than any wealth. The next Sunday, Elliot resolved that an outing was in order. The weather was delightful, a rare sunny day following a week of persistent rain. The park appeared to be the clear option. "I've never been to a park before," Naomi remarked while he assisted her in tying her shoes. Elliot experienced that familiar ache. Each new revelation about Naomi's constrained upbringing struck him with fresh intensity. "You're going to absolutely adore it," he assured. The playground features swings, slides, and a serene pond inhabited by ducks. He wore casual attire, opting for jeans and a plain t-shirt, a departure from his usual style. They strolled along, her tiny hand securely clasped in his. Naomi's eyes sparkled with wonder as she pointed at the dogs, the balloon vendors, and the lively street band. The park buzzed with families relishing the delightful weather. Elliot experienced a brief wave of unease. Did they resemble a genuine father and daughter? Or would onlookers perceive merely a man with a small child and begin to inquire? Yet, all his concerns faded away the moment Naomi noticed the swings. With a firm grip on his hand, she gestured eagerly, her excitement bubbling over. Elliot was taken aback to discover that he had never witnessed her so full of life. The Naomi he remembered was quiet, perhaps a bit too solemn for someone so young. Watching her behave like any other child filled him with warmth. "Absolutely, we can head there," he remarked. He assisted her onto the swing, demonstrating the proper way to hold the chains. "Now I'm going to encourage you, and you'll soar, all right?" Naomi nodded, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Elliot started to nudge her softly, slowly elevating the height. Her laughter, vibrant, uninhibited, and genuine, resonated like a beautiful melody. Before long, he found himself laughing as well, a sound that felt almost foreign to him. When had he last experienced laughter like that? He found himself at a loss for recollection. He propelled the swing upward, and Naomi's giggles transformed into delighted shrieks. She was fully immersed in the experience, relying on him to protect her. Following the swing was the slide, then the seesaw, and the spinning merry-go-round. Elliot, who had once found the chatter of children in bustling parks bothersome, now found himself laughing heartily, pursuing her, relishing every moment. It was in the midst of a chaotic pursuit among the play structures that it occurred. Naomi glanced over her shoulder to check if he was trailing her, unaware of the slight rise in the path ahead. She stumbled and tumbled, her knee grazing against the rough gravel. Elliot hurried towards her, his heart racing. He lifted her from the earth, examining the knee that bore a crimson mark and a few scrapes. "Naomi, how are you holding up? Is it very painful?" She blinked several times, her gaze fixed on the scrape. Her lower lip quivered ever so slightly, yet she inhaled deeply and composed herself with determination. "It stings just a bit, yet your presence makes it bearable." Something shattered within Elliot, the unwavering faith in her gaze, the conviction that with his presence, all would be well. It was a weightier obligation than anything he had ever experienced, and simultaneously, more fulfilling than any career milestone. "Indeed, I am present," he declared, his voice heavy with feeling, "and I shall always remain." It was a vow he hadn't intended to utter, yet it flowed effortlessly, and as the words left his lips, he understood he truly believed in it. He tended to the scrape with the wet wipes he had stashed in his pocket. Fortunately, Sophia had insisted. Children do get messy, believe me. He treated Naomi to an ice cream, and they settled on a bench, observing the ducks gliding across the pond. Thank you for the most incredible day, Elle, she exclaimed, ice cream cascading down her chin. He smiled gently, tenderly wiping her face with a napkin.
Anitime, chant.
Hey there, little one. The nickname emerged naturally and it remained in use. As they made their way home, Naomi moved with a subtle limp that she attempted to conceal. Elliot resolved to uncover the truth about what happened to Vanessa. The next Monday, after leaving Naomi at home with Mrs. Peterson, Elliot summoned Sophia to his office. I need you to hire someone, he said, as he closed the door with a quiet click. What type of expert, Mr. Blackwood? Sophia inquired. Elliot paused for just a brief moment. An exceptional private investigator, unmatched in skill. Sophia remained unfazed. Could you please clarify the main focus of the investigation? My former spouse, Vanessa Blackwood. Gone for 5 years. I recently discovered that she has a daughter, the young girl who has been accompanying me. I seek clarity on the events that transpired. She acknowledged with a nod, swiftly jotting down notes. Are there any particular details that could assist in the search? Elliot pulled open a drawer and retrieved the photograph that Naomi always kept close to her. I suspect this photo is quite new, perhaps no more than 2 years old. According to the girl's account, they were residing in unstable circumstances, shifting locations often. This indicates that Vanessa is, or was, alive recently. Precisely. I am eager to understand the reasons behind her sudden disappearance just days before Naomi found herself on the streets. Sophia gazed at the photo, her mind drifting through the memories it held. Got it. I will engage someone immediately. A week later, the investigator unveiled his initial findings. Vanessa had certainly resided at no fewer than 6 distinct addresses in the last 3 years. Consistently compact living spaces or leased rooms in unassuming areas. In certain instances, she opted for her true identity, while in others, she adopted aliases. She took on short-term positions, rarely lingering for more than a few months in any one place. All signs pointed to her fleeing from something, or perhaps someone. The most recent address was a rented room in the home of an elderly woman, located roughly 10 blocks from where Elliot discovered Naomi. The landlady verified that Vanessa had departed one evening, leaving the child behind with a promise to come back in a few hours. When she failed to return, the woman brought Naomi to a children's shelter. What should I do regarding my former spouse? Elliot inquired, a tightness gripping his heart. The detective sighed in disbelief. The answer remains elusive. No evidence exists of any death, hospitalization, or arrest associated with her name. She just disappeared. Do you believe she left her daughter behind? It's hard to determine, but from what the neighbors and the landlady have shared, her dedication to the girl was remarkable. It seems that an event has transpired. Elliot expressed his gratitude for the report and requested that he proceed with the investigation. As he made his way home that night, a fresh wave of optimism filled the air around him. No evidence existed to confirm Vanessa's demise. She could be out there, in need of assistance, much like Naomi was when he discovered her. Upon his arrival, he discovered Naomi in the living room, engrossed in a new puzzle. Her gaze lifted, and a smile spread across her face upon seeing him. Listen, Elle, I have completed all the edges already. He beamed, appreciating her advancement. That's incredible, my dear. You possess a remarkable intellect. He settled beside her and started to look for fragments. In the midst of their quiet labor, Elliot pondered the path they had traveled over the last few weeks. At the outset, they were 2 individuals brought together by extraordinary situations. There was an additional layer to consider. A connection deepening with each passing day, fortified by early morning sketches, evenings spent solving puzzles, and leisurely weekends in the park. As he observed Naomi's delicate fingers expertly maneuver the pieces, a sense of conviction took root in Elliot's heart. He was determined to protect her at all costs, and he would search for Vanessa relentlessly until she was found. For he had regained something that had slipped away from him long ago, a household. As the prospect of discovering Vanessa reignited, Elliot increasingly recognized the significance of what he had already uncovered. Confidence. The faith of that child beside him, who had come to trust in him, mirroring his own journey of learning to trust in her. In that moment, he understood it was the most valuable treasure of all. Room 307 at St. Mercy Hospital appeared much like the rest. Muted beige walls, delicate curtains struggling to shield against the light, a wall clock's persistent ticking echoing in the stillness of the night. The woman reclined in the bed, her gaze fixed on the shadows that swayed across the ceiling, sleep eluding her grasp. "How are you doing today, Anne?" Nurse Kim stepped in, balancing a tray filled with medications. Her kindness radiated, accompanied by a smile that felt truly authentic. The woman known to all as and had a fondness for her. She replied with a straightforward response. That was indeed the reality. After 3 months in the hospital, nothing had changed. The physician reported that she was discovered unresponsive on the roadway, struck by a motorist who absconded from the location. Without any documents, identification, or anyone searching for her, she was utterly alone. Most troubling of all, a complete lack of memory. Dr. Phillips will arrive later. He mentioned that there is positive news regarding your physical therapy, and nodded, her lack of enthusiasm evident. Her body was mending beautifully. The leg, once fractured in 2 distinct places, was now capable of supporting her weight. The once deep cut on her forehead had faded into a delicate scar, nearly undetectable beneath the bangs that had since grown out. She could take a deep breath without feeling pain in her ribs. Her mind was the one that stayed shattered. A boundless void where a whole existence ought to have thrived. "And isn't even my real name," she murmured softly, almost as if the words were meant for her own ears rather than the nurse's. Kim halted, gazing at her with a sense of empathy. "This is merely a short-term situation while we uncover your identity." Yet, they both understood that opportunities dwindled with every day that slipped away. There are no images on the posters for the missing individuals. No records found in the law enforcement database. There seems to be no one on the lookout for a woman around the age of 30, characterized by brown hair and light eyes. To those around her, she was as if she were invisible. All she possessed were the haunting nightmares, consistently unchanging. As she traversed the shadowy street, glancing back anxiously as if pursued, headlights suddenly emerged, dazzling her with their intensity. The piercing sound of tires skidding against the asphalt, followed by the chilling echo of her own scream, just before darkness enveloped her. Dr. Phillips mentioned it was a disjointed recollection of the incident, yet and sensed there was deeper significance behind it. In the dream, just before the headlights appeared, she always clutched something. A piece of paper and address. A sense of urgency enveloped her, as if she were finally on her way to meet someone significant. In those vivid dreams, the most harrowing moments unfolded. A child's voice beckoning her, crying out a word that eluded her comprehension. A sound that tugged at her heartstrings so profoundly that it roused her from sleep in tears, leaving her bewildered and uncertain of the reason. "I have something for you," Kim said, gently pulling her away from those dark thoughts. She retrieved a small blue notebook and a few colored pens from the pocket of her uniform. "I figured it could be beneficial to jot down whatever thoughts arise, or create," and grasped the notebook, her fingers gliding over the sleek surface. "Thank you," she expressed, her heart full of appreciation for the generosity shown to her. Once the nurse departed, and turned to a pristine page. She gazed at the blank page, mirroring the void within her thoughts. Without a second thought, she picked up her pencil and started to sketch. Her hand seemed to act independently, as if guided by an unseen force. Lines transformed into contours, contours crafted a visage. A petite visage adorned with plump cheeks and large, expressive eyes. A young girl, and stared at the drawing, her pulse quickening. Who is this child? What made her fingers capable of capturing this particular face while her mind remained oblivious? She swiftly flipped the page, unsettled by the depth of her emotions. On the new page, she inscribed a handful of thoughts that frequently danced in her mind, uncertain of their significance. Jack vowed to conceal the photograph within the cardboard and make a swift escape. The final word sent a shiver through her. Flee. Was she fleeing from someone? To do something? The afternoon drifted by with an unhurried pace. Dr. Phillips came by to confirm that she could begin walking without crutches in roughly a week. She also assured another session with the psychologist who focused on trauma and memory loss. He expressed his hope for your memory to come back on its own, just as he always did. Post-traumatic amnesia typically improves as time goes on. However, as I previously mentioned, and had spent an extended period in the hospital. Before long, administrative challenges would emerge. Who will cover the costs of her treatment? Where might she venture next? How could she exist without a sense of self? Is there truly no history? Is there truly nothing at all? That night, the dream took on a new form. It started in the typical manner. The shadowy lane, the beams of light, the collision. Yet, rather than the familiar shadows, she found herself in a cramped space, perched on a slender bed. In her embrace, the little girl from the illustration slumbered serenely. In the dream, and experienced a profound affection for that child, so vast it seemed almost too large for her heart to contain. She was consumed by a relentless, gnawing fear that compelled her to check the window over and over, ensuring it was securely locked. The atmosphere shifted. Now she stood, gazing at the same girl, but fully alert. She cradled the child's delicate face in her hands. This is something you should always carry with you. It holds great significance. If something occurs, share it with someone capable of providing assistance. In the dream, and presented the child with an object, a photograph. She jolted awake, her heart racing, the phrases reverberating in her thoughts. It was more than a mere dream. It was a recollection. She had no doubt about it. She whispered to the empty room, "I have a daughter." The realization crashed over her like a tidal wave. A girl child. A little one who relied on her. A young girl, perhaps isolated in a quiet place, pondering the absence of her mother and the reasons behind her return's delay. Oh my goodness! And stifled a gasp, a wave of nausea washing over her. I left her behind. It was not done on purpose. She would return. The incident occurred, and now, at this moment, she was completely unaware of her daughter's name or where to locate her. A wave of panic enveloped her, stifling her breath. She cast aside the blankets and attempted to rise, fully aware that there was no destination awaiting her. Where might she look? How could she locate a child whose visage was familiar only from her dreams and sketches? The door swung open, and the night nurse hurried in, drawn by the fluctuations on the monitors. "And how are you holding up, my child?" She struggled with each brief, agonizing breath. "I am blessed with a daughter." The nurse gently assisted her in lying down once more, striving to soothe her nerves. "I will contact the physician." Okay, take a deep breath. Once she found herself alone again, and picked up the notebook from the bedside table and flipped to the drawing she had created. She gazed at the girl's face, as if her sheer determination could summon the child's name from the depths of her memory. "May I ask who you are?" She murmured softly to the illustration. "Where do you find yourself at this moment?" Quiet tears streamed down her face. Another piece emerged from the haze in her thoughts. A location, unfinished yet genuine. A destination she was drawn to that evening, and grasped a pen and inscribed in the corner of the page, 82 Park Avenue. That was everything. Missing apartment number. There are no additional details to provide. Yet it marked the beginning, as the gentle sedative enveloped her senses and ushered her into slumber, and whispered a quiet vow to the faceless girl who danced through her dreams. She would not forget. She would navigate her path home. In her quest to locate her daughter, she sensed that this journey might also lead her to rediscover her own identity. On the brink of awareness and slumber, Another word floated to her like a faint murmur. Naomi. She attempted to hold on to it, to echo it, but slumber was excessively intense. Thus the unnamed woman continued to dream of the little girl who might still be waiting for her somewhere. 2 months had slipped by since Naomi stepped into Elliot's world. The penthouse, previously resembling a showroom rather than a true residence, now pulsed with life. Vibrant illustrations adorning the refrigerator. Boxes filled with toys are arranged neatly throughout the living room. A small set of sneakers placed next to his luxurious Italian footwear at the doorway. Nuanced shifts that held profound significance. Autumn had come, ushering in brisk breezes and the vibrant hues of leaves that Naomi cherished gathering on their strolls through the park. Elliot had established a habit. On Sundays, they rose with the dawn, enjoyed a meal at a local bakery, and then dedicated hours to the park, come rain or shine. Check this out, Naomi exclaimed, dashing toward him, holding up a flawless red leaf. It's the largest one to date. Elliot knelt down, a smile spreading across his face as he inspected her treasure. Wow, that's truly remarkable. Let's make sure it stays within your pages, all right? Naomi nodded, delicately tucking the leaf into a small bag she carried for her cherished collection. She had transformed significantly over the past few weeks. Her eyes no longer reflected that persistent dread. Her laughter flowed more freely, and most strikingly, she enjoyed uninterrupted sleep, free from nightmares. During the initial week, Elliot hurried to her room multiple times each night, stirred by her fearful cries. Now the nights were tranquil as Mrs. Peterson, the caregiver who attended to Naomi during his hours of work, would remark, "That girl finally feels secure." Protection. It was an experience that Elliot had never truly appreciated before. He had always thrived on risks, on accomplishments, on the pursuit of the next challenge. Establishing a safe haven for Naomi had taken precedence in his mind. Upon their return home that Sunday afternoon, they discovered Mrs. Peterson in the kitchen, busy preparing a roast. She smiled at just the right moment. "It will be prepared in 10 minutes. Elliot expressed his gratitude for taking the time to do this on your day off. The elderly woman simply shrugged her shoulders. "I enjoy preparing meals for you both. After all, this little one deserves wholesome food, not just the takeout you frequently choose." Elliot found himself at a loss for words. Prior to Naomi's arrival, he seldom ventured into the kitchen. Thanks to Mrs. Peterson, home-cooked meals graced the table almost daily, and Naomi, once a slow and sparing eater, now relished her food with a hearty appetite. Once they finished their dinner, they made their way to the living room. The moment had arrived for their cherished evening ritual, with Elliot weaving tales as Naomi nestled comfortably in his lap, fully absorbed in the stories. "Which one are we going with tonight, my little one?" Naomi selected a fresh volume from the shelf. Elliot started to bring a new book every few days, swiftly building an impressive collection of children's literature. "Text, this one," she said, gesturing towards the vibrant cover of a tale featuring a girl with a star as her companion. They took their places on the spacious couch. Naomi nestled against him, reminiscent of a small, cozy creature, her hair carrying the sweet scent of strawberry shampoo. Elliot started to read, altering his voice for each character just as she preferred. As he read, his thoughts wandered to the profound transformations in his life. The extended hours spent at the office, the corporate dinners that lingered into the early morning, the unexpected journeys, those were now behind me. He arrived home at precisely 6 p.m., without fail. In the course of the meetings, he maintained his phone within reach, anticipating any need from Mrs. Peterson. Even Sophia, his aide, had observed the shift. "I've never witnessed you turn down a 9 p.m. She mentioned a video conference one morning. That young girl is performing wonders." Indeed, it was true. Naomi had reshaped not only his living space but also his priorities, values, and sense of self. The investigator tirelessly searched for Vanessa, yet the clues were scarce. Elliot was starting to come to terms with the possibility that he may never uncover the truth about what truly happened to his ex-wife. He was resolute in his commitment to cherish her memory by nurturing Naomi as though she were his own child. He kept reminding himself that she was his own daughter, through lineage if not through first-hand knowledge. Thus, the star radiated with an unparalleled brilliance. Illuminating the path back, Elliot finished the last line, bringing the book to a close. Naomi remained silent, lost in contemplation. "Do you believe that stars can guide us in locating individuals?" she inquired abruptly. The inquiry caused a constriction in Elliot's chest. "Which individuals, my dear? Just like Mom." Elliot set the book down and shifted Naomi in his lap, gazing into her eyes. "We're putting in every effort to locate her. Don't forget, I shared with you the story of that remarkable man who's in search of her." Naomi gave a subtle nod. What if he fails to locate her? After weeks of silence, she finally mentioned her mother directly for the first time. Elliot selected his words with precision. "We will continue to be a family, just the two of us. We will continue to cherish your mom, even in her absence." Naomi contemplated this, her delicate fingers playing with the button on his shirt. In that moment, she leaned in, encircling his neck with her arms in a warm embrace. "I love you, El," she murmured softly. Her words were softly muted against his shoulder. It marked the very first occasion she had uttered those words. Elliot sensed a sharp sting in his eyes. "I love you too, kiddo," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "So very much." They lingered in that stillness for what felt like an eternity, enveloped by the soothing quiet of the night. As Naomi finally withdrew, a newfound calmness settled in her gaze, as if she had reached a significant conclusion. "My mother whispered something to me," her voice gentle as if confiding a cherished secret. "She mentioned that if anything were to occur, I should cling to the photograph, as the man within it possessed gentle eyes." Elliot stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. Was the man in the photo truly himself, positioned beside Vanessa in the image he had merely glanced at for a fleeting moment? Did she really say that about me? He struggled to ask, his words barely taking shape. Naomi acknowledged with a grave nod. She gazed at the photo repeatedly. At times, tears would escape her eyes. "She mentioned that someday she would reunite with you." The words struck Elliot with the force of a thunderbolt. Vanessa had preserved his photo throughout the years. She shared details about him with Naomi. She had been intending to find him. In that moment, the unseen pathways linking history and now, sorrow and togetherness, hopelessness and optimism appeared vividly before him. Naomi had been sent to him by Vanessa, perhaps not by design, yet the universe had fulfilled the vision she could not bring to fruition. "I appreciate you sharing that," Elliot said, pressing a gentle kiss to the crown of Naomi's head, then perched on the edge of the bed in room 307, jotting down thoughts in her blue notebook. In recent weeks, it had transformed into her steadfast support, the solitary space where she could attempt to arrange the disordered pieces emerging in her thoughts. The pages brimmed with illustrations. The girl's visage, now rendered with greater intricacy. A dwelling unfamiliar to her, yet one she could render with exactitude. And, more recently, a gentleman. Lofty, sturdy, with piercing gaze. Consistently the same individual. Dr. Winters, her psychologist, found these drawings particularly intriguing. "Are you aware of who he could possibly be?" she inquired during the session that morning, and gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. "Seems I ought to be aware, yet..." She paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. "At times, I rise from slumber with a name lingering just at the edge of my consciousness. Jack. That's all there is to it. Jack." "Jack," the physician reiterated, jotting down observations. "What emotions arise when that name crosses your mind?" Proved to be quite challenging to articulate. A tempest of clashing feelings. "Fear," she finally admitted. "Not about him. It's more about the dread of confronting him. As if I accomplished something awful." She halted, a frown creasing her brow. "Yet, I find myself enveloped in a sense of yearning. An intense, aching desire." The previous night, she experienced a more vivid dream. The living room was aglow with festive decorations, radiating the spirit of Christmas. The figure from her sketches stood before her, youthful and full of laughter. She referred to him as her brother. They raised their glasses and captured the moment in photographs. Suddenly, the scene shifted. Shouting, blame, cutting remarks. She burst out, declaring she would never come back. She confided in the psychologist, saying, "I believe he is my brother, and we had a significant confrontation." Dr. Winters nodded with encouragement. "That's an impressive milestone, and your recollection is gradually returning piece by piece." Yet it fell short. She remained unaware of her true identity. She was at a loss about where to locate her daughter. Now, she was completely convinced that the girl depicted in her drawings was her own child. And if the man truly was her brother, why did she experience a mix of fear and an overwhelming urge to find him? The doctor elaborated on a concept known as emotional blocking. At times, when a memory becomes overwhelmingly painful, our mind may choose to shield us from it, even as we start to regain access to other recollections. And contemplated the emotions that relentlessly pursued her. Unwavering alertness, glimpsing behind her, anxiety about discovery. She was fleeing from someone. Perhaps that was why, even prior to the accident, she had been concealing certain memories from her own awareness. That afternoon, following her physical therapy session, and settled by her window, observing the ebb and flow of people on the street below, her body had nearly regained its full strength. Before long, she would be released. And then where would a woman without an identity, without papers, without a history find herself? What mattered most was how she would locate her daughter. She shut her eyes, striving to summon the memory. She needed to remind herself that she must. That's when the term emerged vividly. Cole. Her eyes snapped open, her heart pounding fiercely. Cole. What is her surname? Was it her last name or perhaps his? Her siblings. She seized the notebook and inscribed Jack Cole. She gazed at the name, a peculiar sense of recognition washing over her. Indeed, that was the moment. Jack Cole was her sibling. Additionally, her name should be Cole as well. Vanessa. She murmured softly into the stillness of the room. Vanessa Cole. The name aligned seamlessly, as if a puzzle piece had clicked into position within her scattered thoughts. Vanessa. Her name was Vanessa. She spun around, her fingers darting across the remote as she scrolled through the channels with urgency. She sought any updates regarding a missing woman named Vanessa Cole or a businessman named Jack Cole. As she had an instinct that Jack was a diminutive for Jackson, she discovered nothing. She turned off the TV, a mix of frustration and unexpected relief washing over her. Perhaps the absence of news indicated that no one was searching for her. Perhaps that was a more secure choice. That evening, following the nurse's rounds, Vanessa, who had shed the identity of Anne in her thoughts, turned to the final page of her notebook and started to compose a letter. Jackson, I'm uncertain if this message will ever reach you. I can't help but wonder if our paths will ever cross again. However, putting pen to paper aids in structuring the ideas that are finally resurfacing. I recall our final encounter, the harsh words exchanged between us. You had a point about many of them. I was destroying my existence. I found myself entangled with perilous individuals. I found myself adrift. What you were unaware of, what I kept to myself, was that I was already expecting that evening. It was for her, for Naomi, that I ultimately discovered the courage to transform. Yet, the past clings to us with an unyielding grip, doesn't it? The individuals I encountered, the obligations I accumulated, the errors I committed, they pursued me relentlessly over the years. My daughter and I were constantly on the move, shifting from one city to another, adopting new identities, and perpetually glancing back in caution. I have contemplated reaching out to you on numerous occasions. I once found myself driving close to your building, yet I couldn't muster the courage to go inside. What is the best way to seek forgiveness after such a long time has passed? How can I arrive with a niece you had no idea was part of my life? Following the accident, I find myself completely in the dark about Naomi's whereabouts. I sense that I have fallen short in my roles as a mother, a sister, and as an individual. I'm feeling really frightened, Jackson. If you are reading this, if you have somehow come across my words, I implore you to assist me in locating my daughter, your sister, Vanessa, even if our relationship has changed in your eyes. She carefully folded the paper and placed it beneath her pillow. Though sending it was impossible, putting pen to paper brought her a sense of connection to her brother and, in a way, to her own identity. Across town, Elliot Blackwood came to a stop in front of a modest, unassuming structure. It was the 5th shelter for the homeless he had explored that week. Mr. Blackwood, I am Martha Gomez, the director of the Hope Center. A woman in her middle years welcomed him at the entrance, reaching out her hand. Elliot observed the calluses on her fingers, hands shaped by diligent labor. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me, he expressed. As I stated during our call, I'm seeking any details regarding my former spouse, Vanessa. Martha guided him through a tight passageway to a modest office. While we lack extensive formal documentation, she noted, I found myself captivated when you brought up her name. There was indeed a Vanessa with us for a few weeks approximately 6 months back. She had a small daughter. Elliot's heart raced with intensity. Is it Vanessa Blackwood? Martha nodded in agreement. While she omitted a last name in this instance, the description you provided aligns perfectly. Chestnut, locks, bright, captivating eyes. Approximately 30. Naomi, the daughter, was, if I recall correctly, 5 years old. The shelter's unadorned wall appeared to whirl around Elliot. It was genuine. Vanessa had existed, only a short distance away, just a few months prior. Are you aware of her whereabouts? What comes next? Martha gave a slight shake of her head. Regrettably, that's not the case. One day, they simply vanished without a trace. It occurs frequently in this area. Individuals enter and exit our lives. She hesitated, memories flooding back. Hold on. Vanessa forgot to take a few items with her. They held no real worth, yet we held on to them for a few months, hoping she might come back. Martha rose from her seat and made her way to the storage cabinet nestled in the corner of the office. After a bit of searching, she retrieved a small cardboard box. Here it is. It may not seem like a lot, but perhaps it will be of some assistance. Elliot gingerly lifted the lid of the box. Within were a few cherished belongings. A scarf, a small pocket mirror, a few photographs including a replica of the one Naomi held dear, a well-used address book, and beneath it all an envelope. Could I? Elliot inquired, gesturing toward the envelope. Absolutely. These items belong to her, but if you truly are her former spouse. Elliot carefully peeled open the envelope. Within lay a letter that remained unsent. At the top, in a familiar script, was a name he would know anywhere. Elliot, I've attempted to compose this letter. I've lost track countless times. The phrasing always feels off. How can I articulate 5 years of quietude? What's the best way to seek forgiveness for my words and for vanishing like that? I take full responsibility. Many truths were revealed that night, and you were indeed correct about several of them. I was unraveling my existence. What you weren't aware of, and what I had only just begun to grasp, was that I was expecting. Naomi entered the world 8 months following our conflict. She is absolutely flawless, Elliot. Intelligent, resilient, compassionate. She is the greatest achievement of my life. Thanks to her, I was able to overcome my addiction and distance myself from those who held me back. However, the issues I had caused prior to her arrival remained unresolved. The debts, the perilous individuals I became entangled with, they pursued us. That explains our constant relocation, the reason behind my use of aliases. I'm weary of this constant flight, Elliot, of glancing back in fear, of depriving Naomi of a secure place to call home. Lately, you've been on my mind quite a bit. Naomi possesses that unmistakable resolve, that fierce determination that you have. I present to her the picture captured on our wedding day. I share tales of her father, the most intelligent and courageous man I have ever encountered. Tomorrow, I will finally take the step I should have taken long ago. I will seek you out. Your address is noted. I feel a deep sense of fear, worried that you harbor negative feelings towards me, concerned that you'll focus solely on my past errors and not allow me the opportunity to demonstrate my growth. Yet, I must make the attempt. To Naomi, For my own sake. For our benefit. If there remains a space in your heart for your shattered partner, kindly welcome me when I come to your door. With affection and optimism. Vanessa. The date at the top of the letter was 2 days prior to Elliot discovering Naomi on the street. He shut his eyes, tears streaming down his cheeks. Vanessa was making her way to see him after 5 long years. She was finally returning, and an unexpected event occurred along the journey. Mr. Blackwood, is everything okay with you? Martha's worried tone pulled him from his thoughts. She was on her way to visit me. He gasped for breath. On the day she vanished, the shelter director rested a soft hand on his shoulder. I sincerely apologize. Elliot inhaled deeply, using the back of his hand to wipe his face clean. I must locate her. It's possible she is. He was unable to complete the thought. He tried to resist the urge to imagine the worst, especially now that he clutched this letter, this tangible evidence that Vanessa sought to re-enter his life, that she had transformed, that her love for him endured despite all that had happened. Have you considered hospitals? Martha inquired. As events unfolded, Elliot nodded in acknowledgement. My investigator reviewed all entries associated with her name but uncovered nothing. What is the situation with unidentified patients? Unfortunately, it is a frequent occurrence for individuals experiencing homelessness to be admitted without any form of identification. That thought hadn't crossed his mind. What steps should I take to verify? Martha extended her assistance. We collaborate with multiple hospitals in the region. Allow me to place a few calls on my own terms. The greatest present you could offer me. As he tucked Naomi in that night, Elliot quietly vowed to his missing ex-wife. He would seek out Vanessa, regardless of the time it required, and in the meantime, he would cherish her daughter as the invaluable gem she truly was. For now, he too possessed kind eyes that at last recognized what truly mattered. And perched on the edge of her hospital bed, jotting down thoughts in her blue notebook. In recent weeks, it had transformed into her refuge, the sole space where she could attempt to arrange the chaotic pieces emerging in her thoughts. The pages brimmed with illustrations, the girl's visage, now rendered with greater intricacy, a dwelling unfamiliar yet one she could depict with accuracy. Recently, a man appeared, tall, broad-shouldered, with intense eyes. He was always the same man. Dr. Winters, her psychologist, found these drawings especially intriguing. Can you think of who he could possibly be? She inquired during the session that morning, and gave a slight shake of her head. Seems I ought to be aware, yet. She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. At times, I rise from slumber with a name lingering just at the edge of my thoughts. Jack. That's all there is to it. Jack. Jack! The doctor reiterated, jotting down notes. What emotions arise when that name crosses your mind? It was challenging to articulate, a tempest of clashing feelings. Fear, she finally admitted. Not about him. It feels more like a dread of confronting him, as if I've committed some grave mistake. She halted, a frown creasing her brow. Yet, I find myself filled with a sense of yearning, an intense, aching desire. The evening prior, she experienced a more vivid dream. She found herself in a vibrant living room, adorned with festive Christmas decorations. The figure from her sketches stood before her, youthful and full of laughter. She referred to him as her brother. They raised their glasses and captured the moment in photographs. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, filled with shouts of blame and cutting remarks. She burst out, declaring she would never come back. She confided in the psychologist, saying, I believe he might be my brother, and we engaged in a significant conflict. Dr. Winters offered an encouraging nod. What an impressive advancement, and your recollection is gradually returning piece by piece. Yet it fell short. She remained unaware of her true identity. She was uncertain about where to locate her daughter, for she was now completely convinced that the girl depicted in her drawings was indeed her child. And if the man indeed was her sibling, what was it that made her feel both fear towards him and an overwhelming urge to be in his presence? The doctor elaborated on a concept known as emotional blocking. At times, when a memory becomes overwhelmingly painful, our mind has a way of shielding us from it, even as we start to regain access to other recollections. And contemplated the emotions that relentlessly pursued her. Endless watchfulness, glancing back, dread of discovery. She was fleeing from someone. Perhaps that was the reason she had been concealing certain memories from herself, even prior to the accident. That afternoon, following her session of physical therapy, and settled by her window, observing the ebb and flow of people on the street below, she had nearly regained her full strength. She would soon be on her way home. And then where would a woman without an identity, without papers, without a history find herself? What mattered most was how she would locate her daughter. She shut her eyes, striving to summon the memory. She needed to recall. It was necessary for her to do so. That's when the term emerged vividly. Cole. Her eyes snapped open, her heart pounding fiercely. Cole. What is her last name? Or perhaps it belongs to their brother. She seized the notebook and inscribed Jack Cole. She gazed at the name, a peculiar sense of recognition washing over her. Indeed, that was the moment. Jack Cole was her sibling. Additionally, her name should be Cole as well. Vanessa. She murmured softly into the stillness of the room. Vanessa Cole. The name aligned seamlessly, as if a puzzle piece had clicked into position within her scattered thoughts. Vanessa switched on the small TV in her room, anxiously flipping through channels, searching for any updates on a missing woman named Vanessa Cole or a businessman named Jack Cole, as she had an instinct that Jack was a nickname for Jackson. With nothing to capture her attention, she turned off the TV, feeling a mix of frustration and an unexpected sense of relief. Perhaps the absence of news indicated that no one was searching for her. Perhaps that was a more secure choice. That evening, once the nurses had completed their rounds, Vanessa turned to the final page of her notebook and started to compose a letter. Jackson, I'm uncertain if this message will ever reach you. I'm uncertain if I'll ever locate you again. Yet putting pen to paper aids in structuring the thoughts that are finally resurfacing. I recall our final encounter, the harsh words exchanged between us. You had a point about many of them. I was sabotaging my own existence. I found myself entangled with perilous individuals. I found myself adrift. What you were unaware of, what I kept to myself, was that I was already expecting that evening. It was for her, for Naomi, that I ultimately discovered the courage to transform. Yet the past clings on tenaciously, doesn't it? The individuals I encountered, the obligations I accumulated, the errors I committed, they all pursued me relentlessly over the years. My daughter and I were constantly on the move, shifting from one city to another, adopting new identities, perpetually glancing back in caution. I have contemplated reaching out to you on numerous occasions. I once found myself driving close to your building, yet I found myself unable to ascend. What is the best way to seek forgiveness after such a long time? How can I arrive with a niece you had no idea was part of my life? Now, following the accident, I'm completely in the dark about Naomi's whereabouts. I feel like I've let down my family and myself. I'm feeling really frightened, Jackson. If you are reading this, if you have somehow come across my words, I implore you to assist me in locating my daughter, your sister, even if our relationship has changed, Vanessa. She carefully folded the paper and gently tucked it beneath her pillow. Though sending it was impossible, the act of writing brought her a sense of connection to her brother and, in a way, to her own identity. Elliot Blackwood pulled up to a modest, unassuming structure on the other side of town. He had now visited 5 homeless shelters that week. Greetings, Mr. Blackwood. I am Martha Gomez, the director of the Hope Center. A woman in her middle years welcomed him at the doorway, offering her hand in greeting. Elliot observed the calluses on her fingers, hands accustomed to diligent labor. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. As I stated during our call, I'm seeking any details regarding my former spouse, Vanessa. Martha guided him through a tight passageway to a modest office. While our formal records are limited, I found it quite fascinating when you brought up her name. There was indeed a Vanessa with us for a brief period around 6 months back. She had a small daughter. Elliot's heart raced with intensity. Is it Vanessa Blackwood? Martha gave a slight nod. She omitted a last name in this instance, but indeed, the description you provided aligns perfectly. A person with brown hair and light eyes, approximately in their 30s. Naomi, the daughter, was, if I recall correctly, 5 years old. The shelter's unadorned walls appeared to whirl around Elliot. It was genuine. Vanessa had existed merely a few miles away just months prior. Are you aware of her whereabouts following this? Martha gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. Regrettably, that's not the case. One day they simply ceased to do so. Return, please. It occurs frequently in this area. Individuals enter and exit our lives. She took a moment, her mind drifting back to a memory. Hold on. Vanessa forgot to take a couple of items with her. There is no worth here. However, we held on to them for several months, just in case she came back. Martha rose from her seat and made her way to a storage cabinet. After a bit of searching, she retrieved a small cardboard box. Presenting this, it may not seem like a lot, but perhaps it can be of assistance. Elliot delicately lifted the lid of the box. Within the confines lay a collection of personal belongings. A scarf, a petite pocket mirror, several photographs, including a duplicate of the one Naomi held dear, a well-used address book, and beneath it all an envelope. Could I? Elliot gestured toward the envelope. Absolutely. Those are her possessions, but if you truly are her former spouse. Elliot carefully peeled open the envelope. Within lay a letter that remained unsent. At the top, a familiar handwriting revealed a name he would recognize anywhere. Elliot's hands quivered with anticipation as he carefully unfolded the letter. The handwriting was undeniably Vanessa's, a blend of cursive and print that he would recognize anywhere. Jack, I've attempted to compose this letter countless times, and I've completely lost track. The phrasing always feels off. How can I articulate 5 years of quietude? What is the best way to seek forgiveness for my words and for vanishing without a word? I accept full responsibility. Many truths emerged that night, and you were spot on about them. I was unraveling my existence. What you weren't aware of, and what I had only just begun to grasp myself, was that I was expecting. Naomi entered the world 8 months following our conflict. She is absolutely flawless, Jack. Intelligent, resilient, compassionate. She is the greatest achievement of my life. Thanks to her, I was able to break free from drugs and distance myself from those who held me back. However, the issues I had caused prior to her arrival remained unresolved. The obligations, the perilous individuals I became entangled with. They trailed behind. That's the reason we transitioned from one city to another. The reason behind my choice of pseudonyms. I'm weary of this endless chase, Jack. While glancing back, of depriving Naomi of a secure place to call home. Lately, you've been on my mind quite a bit. Naomi possesses your appearance, you see. The unwavering resolve. I reveal to her the picture we captured during our last Christmas together. I share tales of her father Jack, the wisest and most courageous man I have ever encountered. Tomorrow, I will finally take the step I should have taken long ago. I will seek you out. Your address is noted. To be frank, I'm filled with dread. I'm worried that you might dislike me. Worried that you'll focus solely on my past errors and not allow me the opportunity to demonstrate my growth. Yet, I must make the attempt. To Naomi. For my own purposes. For our benefit. If there remains a space in your heart for your challenging partner, kindly welcome me in when I come knocking. Filled with affection and optimism. Vanessa. The date at the top of the letter was 2 days prior to Elliot discovering Naomi on the street. He shut the door. Those eyes of his. Emotions cascading down his cheeks. Vanessa was finally making her way to see him after 5 long years. At long last, she was returning. And an event unfolded along the journey. Mr. Blackwood, is everything okay with you? Martha's worried tone pulled him from his thoughts. He struggled to get the words out. She was coming to see me. On the day she vanished, she was on her way to meet me. The shelter director rested a comforting hand on Elliot's shoulder. I sincerely apologize. Elliot inhaled deeply, using the back of his hand to wipe his face clean. I must locate her. She could possibly be He was unable to complete the thought. He preferred not to dwell on the negative possibilities. Not at this moment as he grasped this letter. This demonstrates that Vanessa had a desire to re-enter his life. She had transformed. That she cherished him regardless of all that had transpired. "Have you considered hospitals?" Martha inquired. Elliot nodded, acknowledging that something had occurred along the way. "My investigator reviewed all admissions associated with her name but discovered nothing." "What is the situation with unidentified patients?" "Unfortunately, it is a frequent occurrence for individuals experiencing homelessness to be admitted without any form of identification." That thought hadn't crossed his mind. "What steps should I take to verify?" Martha extended her assistance. "We collaborate with multiple hospitals in the region. I'll reach out to a few people." For the next hour, Martha engaged in a flurry of phone calls, painting a vivid picture of Vanessa with every detail Elliot could share. Many hospitals lacked valuable information. Several assured me they would investigate and return the call. On the penultimate call, they finally received their first genuine lead. "Greetings, Dr. Phillips. This is Martha reaching out from the Hope Center." "Indeed, I am doing well. Thank you. I'm reaching out regarding a unique situation. We are seeking a woman approximately 30 years old, with brown hair and light eyes, who may have been admitted without identification in the past 2 to 3 months. Elliot observed with growing unease as Martha's demeanor shifted. "Is that so? For how long has she been present? What is post-traumatic amnesia? I comprehend. Indeed, I have an individual present who could potentially fit the description. A family member. Would it be possible for us to stop by today?" "Thank you very much, that's wonderful to hear." She ended the call, facing Elliot with eyes that sparkled with excitement. St. Mercy Hospital. An unidentified patient has been at the facility for over 3 months now. A woman in her early 30s has been discovered following a hit-and-run incident. She is experiencing memory loss. Elliot sensed the atmosphere shift dramatically. "It might just be her," he murmured. "The physician indicated that we are free to leave immediately. She will join us face to face." Elliot lifted the box containing Vanessa's possessions, gently tucking the letter into the inner pocket of his jacket. After weeks of suffocating tension, a sense of relief washed over him, allowing him to finally take a deep breath. Possibility lingered. An opportunity to amend what has already transpired. An opportunity to bring his wife together with her daughter. An opportunity to reunite with the entire family once more. "Let's go," he declared. His voice remained steady, even as emotions loomed large, threatening to engulf him. "Let us seek her out." St. Mercy Hospital carried that distinct odor Elliot had always found off-putting. A disinfectant blended with an unnameable essence that echoed with the whispers of sickness. He trailed behind Dr. Phillips along the sterile white corridor, struggling to suppress the anxiety that caused his heart to race. "I must caution you, Mr. Blackwood," the doctor remarked as they strolled, "that even though she is your former spouse, she might not identify you immediately. Post-traumatic amnesia often presents itself in unexpected ways." Elliot merely nodded, his fingers tightening around the handle of the briefcase that held a copy of the photo Naomi had and various documents that could potentially confirm Vanessa's identity. The letter in his jacket pocket pressed against his chest, radiating an intense heat. "Does she remember anything?" he asked, his voice deeper than he meant it to be. "Shattered visions. In the past few weeks, she has been sketching a face and referring to a name. Jack. That was the moment I started to think this could be more about emotional barriers than merely physical injury." They paused in front of room 307. Dr. Phillips faced him, his expression grave and contemplative. "I'll step in first and get her ready. Stay put until I reach out to you, all right?" Elliot felt a strong urge to voice his dissent. He longed to fling open the door, wrap his arms around Vanessa, and assure her that everything would be all right. He simply nodded, resting against the wall of the hallway as the doctor entered the room. 5 minutes stretched into what seemed like an endless expanse of time. At last, the door swung open once more. "Please enter now, Mr. Blackwood." With a tightness in his throat, Elliot advanced. After 5 long years apart, Convinced he would never see her again, and 3 months of desperate searching, he finally laid eyes on his ex-wife. Vanessa sat on the bed, clad in a plain hospital gown. She appeared more slender than he recalled, her face slightly more defined with faint lines around her eyes that hadn't existed previously. Her brown hair had been trimmed, gently grazing her shoulders. Yet those eyes, her stunning hazel eyes, were undeniable. She gazed at him, a look of bewilderment on her face. Her gaze held no immediate recognition, only a spark of curiosity and perhaps a trace of fear. Vanessa was all he could manage, his voice scarcely functioning. A shift occurred at that moment, understated yet perceptible. A shiver appeared to ripple through her form. Her eyes grew larger, and her breath became more rapid. "You know me," she said. It was not a question. Elliot advanced another step, maintaining a careful distance to avoid startling her. "Indeed, I am Elliot. Elliot Blackwood, your spouse." Vanessa raised her hand to her lips. Her eyes brimmed with tears in an instant. She was perplexed by the way her body seemed to acknowledge something that her mind had yet to comprehend. She found herself before a figure of significance, someone integral to her very being. "I can't remember," she said, tears cascading down her cheeks. "What is causing these tears? Why does it ache so deeply to behold you?" Elliot sensed a fiery intensity in his own gaze. He inched forward, his hesitation palpable. "Could I?" he inquired, gesturing toward the edge of the bed. She nodded, brushing away tears with the backs of her hands. "Dr. Phillips suggests that you could be my husband and that you possess evidence to support this claim." "I do," he replied, as he opened the briefcase and retrieved the photo that Naomi had carried. The identical image discovered within Vanessa's possessions at the shelter. They stood together at Christmas moments before everything unraveled. Vanessa captured the photo delicately, treating it as though it were a cherished and delicate treasure. Her fingers glided over his face, then traced her own in the picture, with a sense of reverence. "That's me," she whispered, not as if seeking confirmation but as a declaration. Her mind acknowledged the instant those individuals. Christmas 2019. "Are you at your place?" "Indeed," Elliot affirmed, his heart racing. "December 24th, 2019. The most recent occasion we shared together. You had on that silver dress that you adored." Vanessa raised her eyes from the photograph to connect with his gaze. "The earrings you gifted me that morning. Pearl drops adorned with delicate diamonds." Elliot nodded, words caught in the tightness of his throat. She recalled. "Some things, but not all." He spoke softly. "I have something else to show you, a suggestion that could enhance your recollection." Elliot retrieved his phone, revealing a recent image of Naomi beaming as she tackled a puzzle that was beyond her years. Vanessa's response was swift. She inhaled sharply, covering her mouth with her hands once more, her gaze fixed on the screen. "That girl," she murmured. "She is the figure that haunts my dreams. My little girl. Our little girl. Naomi." In the days that ensued, Elliot reorganized his whole existence to dedicate as much time as he could to the hospital. He came in the early hours, before the sun had fully risen and breakfast was served, and only returned home at night, after Naomi had drifted off to sleep under the watchful eye of Mrs. Peterson. Vanessa did not experience an extraordinary revival of her memory. There was no abrupt flash of inspiration. Rather, there were gradual advancements, instances of insight amidst the fog. Elliot shared photographs, recounting tales of their life together, from their college meeting to their passionate romance, reminiscing about the joyful years before everything took a turn for the worse. At times, Vanessa remained entirely unresponsive, simply absorbing the words around her. At other moments, her eyes glimmered with understanding. One day, she casually mentioned a red umbrella, as if it had always been there in her thoughts. "You kept it above us during that tempest, and your shoulder became drenched." Elliot beamed, taken aback and touched. "Our second rendezvous." As we exited the theater, the skies opened up and we found ourselves drenched in an unexpected downpour. On a notably bright morning, almost a fortnight following their reunion, Elliot made his way to the hospital bearing news. The doctor mentioned that you could welcome another visitor today, he declared, striving to hold back his enthusiasm. A person of great significance is eager to meet with you. Vanessa, now preferring the comfort of a chair by the window over her bed, regarded him with a curious gaze. Who is it? It's a surprise, Elliot remarked, a smile spreading across his face. I simply need to find out if you're prepared. If it feels overwhelming, we can take our time. After a brief pause for reflection, she gave a nod of agreement. I am prepared. After a thoughtful discussion with Dr. Phillips, Elliot re-entered the room, gently holding Naomi's hand. The young girl felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. Her lower lip caught between her teeth, a familiar gesture that echoed Vanessa's and tugged at his heartstrings. Upon their entrance, Vanessa stood poised by the window. She pivoted at the noise of the door and stood still, captivated by the image of the child grasping Elliot's hand. The atmosphere crackled with intensity. The atmosphere buzzed with an almost palpable vitality. Naomi gazed at her mother, her eyes wide and her mouth slightly agape. Vanessa gazed intently, an unfiltered, instinctual feeling overtaking her expression. Naomi, Vanessa breathed, the name escaping her lips as if it were sacred. In that moment, Elliot understood that the extent of Vanessa's lost conscious memory was irrelevant. She felt an undeniable connection to her daughter, one that resonated deep within her heart, body, and soul. Naomi gazed at Elliot, her eyes silently seeking his approval. As he offered a subtle nod, she released his hand and approached Vanessa with deliberate steps. She paused a few steps ahead, an unexpected shyness washing over her. Hello, Mom. With the arrival of spring in the city, flowers bloomed and days stretched longer, breathing new life into the penthouse that had once felt like just a temporary refuge for Elliot. 3 months had elapsed since Vanessa's release, and the change was evident in every corner. Blooms adorning the kitchen counters, tales for children nestled by the couch, vibrant artwork displayed on the refrigerator. On a bright Sunday morning, as Elliot observed Vanessa and Naomi preparing pancakes side by side, he came to a striking realization about the significant transformation in his life. The stifling quiet he had overlooked until now gave way to the joyful echoes of laughter, melodies, and the vibrant sounds of existence. In their new suburban home, complete with a garden for Naomi to play in, the small family gathered before 2 framed photographs on the wall. The well-worn picture Naomi had clutched while wandering the streets, and a fresh image of the 3 of them beaming together in the warm sunlight. The first one is us when we were lost, Naomi remarked with surprising insight. The second one captures the moment we were discovered.